From Cammy's Garage with special guest star Daryl from Dreadknot Workshop. Yay! Thanks for coming, Daryl. Why are you in town anyway?
I'm here to do the Robert Sorby demos at Man Tools in Columbia.
That's right, Man Tool, and Daryl is here demoing, like you said, for Robert Sorby. You got some nice tools here, Daryl. What do you got there? Why don't you show it to us?
So I have some of this is our Sovereign system, which is the interchangeable handle. This is, everybody always asks me about these gold tools. These are Excelsior lines. It's a high-speed, it's a M2 high-speed steel, the same that we use in all of our tools, but it's just coated with titanium nitride, which gives it a much sharper and more durable edge than standard high-speed steel. And this is my, because I use the interchangeable handles, instead of having to transport a bunch of tools, a bunch of long tools with handles, I can pull out I can take the handles off and I can just carry the blade end of the tools, right? And this allows me to carry it in a smaller footprint. So basically this tool roll is really made for like carving tools and chisels, like bench chisels and things like that. So having this allows me to travel more efficiently, because I put everything in this little tiny case right here. So everything has to go in there at the end of the thing. So, and today we're gonna, am I jumping the gun a little bit?
What are we gonna do today, Daryl?
So we're gonna attempt to turn this cylinder into a sphere, right here. So, and I'm gonna start by cutting this down a little bit because we don't need it quite that long. And then we'll mark up the end so that we can find center on this side, and I'll show you how to do that. And then we'll take it over to the lathe and we'll get cracking on it.
Yeah, I had already turned that on, on the lathe.
Yeah, we have this one, but when I cut this end off, I'm going to need to find center from this side. So for those that don't know how to do that, we'll be able to do that.
Here's the saw for you.
Are we really going to do it that way?
Well, you can put it in the
miter saw.
No, you can't cut a round thing on a miter saw. Daryl, that wouldn't be safe. Here, let me cut it on there.
Shouldn't, but
I'll just cut it in half.
okay.
For you. Have you get your assistant to do your cutting for you?
Yeah. You're wearing two hats.
Yeah, so this is a piece of magnolia that I got years ago. It's the last piece I have left, really. I've made some other things out of it, but it's not a very pretty wood, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a little plain. But you know, this could become a collaboration, because I could turn a sphere and you could carve it.
Well, that's a great idea. I'm not going to do any carving today because it makes such a mess. It makes so much dust. You wouldn't believe it. Like so much dust.
Collaborations don't have to happen on the same day.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So basically, this is a center finder jig, right? You can find them in all different kinds of colors from all different kinds of makers. This one just happens to be red from Nova. And basically, you have a 90-degree cradle here on the back with a line at 45 degrees. So basically what we're going to do is set it up so that the circle registers against the 90-degree cradle, and then we're going to mark across the center, and you'll do it a couple of times on something that's already been turned around. You really could get by with just one, but if it's not completely round, which maybe this isn't completely round anymore, but you can see that making several marks will get you close to where you need to be. So that's what we did. So let's go put this on the lathe and start making stuff.
You know, that piece was turned just so I could use it as a sanding device, where I just wrapped a piece of sandpaper around it to sand a a wood sculpture that I'd done years ago.
All right, so let's get this.
Oh yeah, maybe I should have put some lube on that.
Maybe just a little bit. All right, so let's.
So I have, like I said, turned a couple of spheres before myself,
Okay.
and I simply use cardboard templates like this, where I just carved it, and I would basically just set it on there to compare as
Right.
I worked.
Right.
And that's how I made my spheres.
All right, so we could do a little better.
I'm curious to know how you will do it, Daryl.
Oh. Yeah, I'm gonna be using. It's just a little bit lower. All right, is that better? A little better. All right. All right, so let me.
I was gonna give you these if you wanted some.
Oh, I think I have a
Good
face
for
shield
you.
in the truck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let me go grab that.
Yeah. Well, I'll wear these then.
Huh?
I will wear my safety glasses, of course. Hi, Chris. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Can you hear me talking? Because I don't even know. Okay, interesting thing. So after my last live stream, my video quality was really bad. So my phone had been acting up before this. So I got a new phone. Hopefully the video quality is better and that you guys can see and hear us just fine.
Alright. So just collecting up a few tools real quick.
Hey Dennis, hey Orlando. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks Chris for letting us know. So what we're working on today is Daryl's just going to give us a demo on how he turns a sphere. As I said, I've turned a couple of spheres in the past, but like I said before, I'm just a hack. So I make stuff up as I go, and most of the time it works out. Sometimes it doesn't.
Make a little bit more room.
Oh yeah, right.
Okay, so normally at this point this would be square. Well, usually. So the first thing to do would be to make it round. And since we cut this side off and established a new center, it doesn't rotate it's not exactly
Yeah, it's a
true.
little warped. Yeah.
So we're going to go back and we're going to true it up first, and then we'll take a measurement, and then we'll start working on getting this thing round.
Oops.
So now this one, you pull this, it's already on, so I just started up.
Oh, I gotta plug it in first.
Oh. Okay. That helps
Okay,
a lot.
that should work. Do you need the ruler? there?
Okay. Nope,
Okay.
not yet.
Oh, I forgot to stick your other sticker on there too. Daryl and I did a sticker shop swap also.
So I pull the knob and then turn the bottom knob. Right?
Yeah. Is it spinning?
Oh, there you go. I didn't pull
You
it.
didn't pull it
far
hard enough.
enough. Help if I pull it far enough. Alright, so need to go just a little bit higher than that. Right. You know, I've never used the tool rest that comes with the lathe.
Hmm?
Never.
Daryl was using this piece of wood because I didn't have anything bigger to give him. All I have is little scraps.
Yeah, just using this one because it was the right size. Relatively. Okay, so we just want to get this, we really just want to get this round and true. None of these cuts matter at this point. Okay. I think that should be good. there's a little bit out of true there, but that's on the end, so we're good. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take some kind of measuring tool. We're not gonna actually measure with it, we're gonna use it for basically relative measurement. So what I'm gonna do is set this on here so I can get it around the largest point of the cylinder. I'll loosen this up, loosen up the lock here so it can slide. And I'm basically gonna set this up so I can see how wide the cylinder is. Then I could take a measurement with the ruler here, which is just a little less than 3 inches. All right, so bring this down to the blank, mark it off. Okay, actually I'm gonna need another tool. Okay, so that's pretty much 3 inches right there. So 1.5 inches is our center mark.
Need a parting tool?
Yeah, I'm gonna need a parting tool. So let's go ahead and mark this off. Mark off the center and the 2 ends. All right, and these are gonna define. This is gonna define my sphere, because the sphere is basically like a cube if it was square, so it would be the same dimension in every direction. So this dimension and this dimension are the same. So let me get a parting tool and we'll come back and keep moving on this.
Sure.
So the parting tool is in 2 pieces, by the way.
Oh, it is? Okay.
There we go. Gotta find the right handle. Okay. Now we have our parting tool. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce this, the material on both of these sides here, so that I know where the end of my sphere is. So now I'm going to basically make a mark that's about halfway between. Doesn't have to be perfect. Halfway between those marks. And then I'm going to start to round these corners over and get it close, get it as close to a cylinder shape as I can from this point before we cut this off and move on to the next. Safety first. Stop the lathe before I move stuff.
Yes, you should always stop the lathe before adjusting the banjo or tool rest.
And even if you don't, make sure you do it when you're doing it for the public. When you're doing it on video, make sure you do that. Now that I have that side kind of started, this side is actually more angled than this side, and that's okay. The reason why you have this divided up like that is to make sure that you don't take this. It's really easy to take this point down too small, so small that it's to a small enough diameter that it kind of just ruins your ability to get a perfect sphere. So I set that. So anyway, so I set that so that I have a place to stop, and now I'm going to start to take from the center all the way to the end and start getting it into the spherical shape. At this point, you don't have to worry too much about how spherical the shape is. You're really just trying to get rid of some of this waste material. Kind of feeling like I took off a little too much, but we'll see when we get around to the right side.
For those of you that just tuned in recently, Daryl is demonstrating how to make a sphere. It's just a small one because I don't have very many large pieces of wood here. I have really small scraps here in Gamey's garage. That's why I make so many segmented things. Also, don't touch the wood while it's still spinning. Bad boy, Daryl. Bad boy.
Yes. But
That's not safe.
all right. So now what I need to do is cut these ends off. So I'm going to borrow Cammy's pull saw.
The saw.
All right. And I definitely want to turn the lathe off for this.
Yeah. Yes, you do.
Okay, and I want to cut this. I don't want to cut it right at that point there because I don't want to accidentally go too far. So I'm going to leave a little bit of material on both sides.
Why wouldn't you use the parting tool to take a little bit more off of there?
I could do that.
Oh, okay. I thought you left
But
it
it
that
doesn't
way in
really
his first. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really
I
matter.
was just curious.
Well, I don't know this. I don't know how well this magnolia might hold up. So I
It's
don't
kind
wanna
of
go too
soft.
far.
It's
I
kind
don't
of
wanna
soft.
go too far and then
Yeah.
have it
Okay.
fly off. And then the problem is if it twists off or breaks off, what can happen is it can this is ingrain, so it can tear. It can the tear out can rip a hole in the ends of your sphere, and it would be really hard to get rid of that.
Yeah.
So it's one of those situations where better safe than sorry kind of thing.
Sure.
And it's still very little material, so it shouldn't take too long. And see that right there is the reason why I'm not 100% certain about that because it's tearing.
Yeah,
up
you're
so
getting
bad.
a lot of tear out there.
Yeah, so I'd rather just cut it off. So oops. I think that's pretty close. And then
Let me know if you need that ruler again.
take a little bit of pressure off of here. Just a little bit. That should help. Yeah, there we go. That side's good. Move this over Do the other side. All right.
It's off.
So see, I didn't tear out the ink rings, right? And there you go.
Thank you.
All right. So now I'm going to use.
You got your special sauce over here, huh?
Yeah. I brought a new toy to play with. Let's see. Pop this out.
The magic toolbox over here.
Say again?
I was just showing your fans your magic toolbox.
This is how Dreadknot hits the road.
So what you got there?
So these are, I think Carter calls them M cups. That makes sense because it says multi-chuck on the side, but this is sold by Carter, and these are basically used to hold your sphere so that you can turn off these little nubs. But also, once we mount it in here and start turning it, we're going to get, when you look at the horizon, which should show up in the video, but once you get it mounted in between, the horizon line is going to show a true sphere. So all we have to really do is just cut away, the material outside of the sphere, which may not make a lot of sense yet, but once we get cracking, it will probably make a lot more sense. So basically what we want to do is seat this in the middle here. I'm going to extend this out a bit because the tool rest is pretty wide. And I'm going to need to get in there and work on this. Extend that out a bit. Bring this up. So what I want to do is, this line right here represented the center when we had it mounted between the end grains, all right? So now what I want to do is I want to line this line up with the spindle of the lathe and get it seated in there good. And then these cups are going to hold the sphere so that I can continue to cut it, okay? And when I turn this on, let's see how that looks. That looks pretty good. So when I turn this on, you should be able to see a sphere. Once it gets going, you can see, if you look at the horizon, the side furthest from you.
Yeah, you can totally see it.
You can see the sphere show up,
Yeah.
right? So it's actually pretty easy because all we have to do is cut away the parts. All we have to do is cut away the parts outside of the sphere. So what I'm going to do, usually I would have a light or something for this, but what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to put my phone here on the banjo to give me a little bit more light. It's a lot easier to see it with some light.
Oop. Oop.
So let's see if this is going to get it. Prop this up. Yeah, that should do. Okay, and all I have to do is cut away the parts. All I have to do is cut away the parts outside the cylinder. And these first few cuts, you want to be very nice about because you got that nub running around. By the way, I didn't mention it, and I meant to, but these cups, you don't have to actually buy a set, you can actually make them. So for the live center side, you take the live center on your lathe. In the case of the one here in Cammy's shop, this actually is I think it's a 3/4 10 thread. So you can buy a tap and you can tap a block of wood to put on top of this. But most live centers, well, except for this style. So if you had a live center that was, let's say it was shaped like this one, and it had a 60-degree cone on the end of it or something, what you do is you turn a block of wood that would fit, tightly around this outside diameter, and then on the front of it, you would cut a hemispherical shape on the front of it, the same shape as this. Same thing for the drive spur. Same thing for the drive side. Maybe chuck a piece of wood up in a chuck and cut that hemispherical shape on the inside, and that will allow you to hold the sphere in this orientation. Oops. Forgot my phone was there. I pulled it back and I
Need
was
some
like,
tape
what is
or something? Yeah, what's that thing I put there?
that? Let's see. All right, let's go and get the other side. Interesting thing that has come to be is that I've gotten to a point now where I can be relatively comfortable on anybody's lathe, because when I'm demoing, I never know what they're going to give me to work on, so I just have to make do. So it's made me a more agile turner, because you just kind of have to, go with what you got. I'm trying to push this out just a bit further. See if I can get just a little closer.
I don't know if I have smaller. Yeah, I don't have another
It's okay.
tourist.
It's okay. Remember, demonstrator. Got to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah.
I got to make the magic no matter what tool they give me.
I'm a demonstrator.
Alright, so now we're just going to cut away that little nub.
See if we can get closer.
And you can see, watching the horizon line, you can see the progress you're making. I'm going to put that up too high. Ooh, not cutting it in enough. So you can see it's mostly gone on this side, and a little bit more on. There's a little bit more on this side, which means it's not exactly centered, which isn't a huge deal. But you can see that we're starting to get closer to a sphere. Now, the thing you don't want to do is you don't want to remove this line if you can help. You want to leave this. You want to leave that center line that you had before, because if you start cutting this, then the sphere is going to start to get smaller. And you can literally chase it down to nothing. So I'm gonna address the touching it while it's running thing, right? I'm very tactile when I do these things, and I need to touch things. So that's not to say that everybody should. You have to do what feels safe and comfortable to you. But I have a lot of experience doing that, so I'm not encouraging you to, but it's a really hard habit for me to break.
Kami's Garage does not condone or endorse touching the wood when it's spinning. That's the disclaimer
There you go.
for Kami's Garage channel.
For the record, neither does Dreadknot Woodshop, but I do do it. There's that. So when we look at our sphere, what we want to see is we want to be cutting pretty much the entire thing. So you can see on this side here, I cut pretty much everything. This side here as well, I have a little bit of a flat going on right here. So I need to take a little bit more material off of both sides. and then we're going to rotate it. Then we're going to make a new center mark this way, and we'll rotate it one more time, and we'll continue to shape it. It would be a lot with this size of cup. It's a lot easier to do it with a bigger sphere, but it is possible to do it. You know, it is possible to turn the sphere, even a sphere this small with this size cup. And when you make them yourself, you can make them whatever size you want. So I'm getting closer over here, closer over there, and do just a little bit more cutting, and we'll go. So when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you check it often, right? Because once you get past that line, you just made your sphere smaller. You can not check too often, but you can definitely not check often enough. One more thing to mention about this too, you don't want to do this with a roughing gouge, with a spindle roughing gouge, because right now I'm cutting into A-grain, so it would be the same thing as if I was cutting a face grain hole, an edge grain hole, because the A-grain right now is going over end, and your spindle roughing gouge could get wedged in there and snap off at the handle. It's very dangerous. So you definitely want to do this with either a bowl gouge, a scraper, or a spindle gouge. So a scraper would also include a carbide tool, a carbide insert type tool. I think that should be.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Make sure you hit us up with any questions if you have any questions for Daryl or feedback.
Okay. So I went through right there, right? So that means this part right here is now spherical, but I have made it just a little bit smaller. So I'm gonna go ahead and extend this out with a few more. So I'm gonna focus more on this side here. Not so much down here because I don't wanna risk cutting my cup material. I'll fix that when I remount it, but I wanna get this side over here round as well. So we'll do that, then we'll switch.
Thanks for your feedback, Chris. Not sure what I can do to help that situation where you can't hear Daryl.
What's going on? Is it the light on your phone?
No. It's the audio. They're having trouble hearing you talk.
Oh, okay.
It's just because I'm close.
Talking over this.
Yeah, well, number one, the lathe is running. Number two, I'm standing right next to the phone.
Okay.
So that's probably why they're having a little bit more trouble hearing you talk.
Okay. All right. Yeah, pretty much there.
Yeah, turn the lathe off when talking. that would probably help.
Okay. So I can see that it's not exactly even there, so I'm going to go ahead and work from the other side, and hopefully all that stuff will work itself out. Okay, so I'm going to put a new center line, right? And I'm going to loosen this up, and I'm going to rotate it between those two. So now what's happened is now this is the area that was covered by the cups. These two sides here are now the areas that were covered by the cups in the last mount. So now we'll trim this area and get this area closer to round. So here we go. Still, we're going to be focusing on the horizon line. You're going to be able to see the cylinder emerge out of all this rough area. And you can see that most of the material that needs to be removed is here and there. By this point, you want to be taking light cuts. So we want to be taking light cuts. We don't want to be taking off too much material. We just want to try to get down to that cylinder. And we're pretty good in this area. We still have a little bit sticking up on this side, and I haven't even started addressing that side. So like I said, you know, checking often is advised. You can't check too often. You can see there's a little bit of a lump right there. All right, so we're getting pretty close. So I'm gonna get rid of this lump right here, and then I'm gonna sand it a little bit and see where we're at, and just keep moving. So we're pretty close now, pretty close to a sphere. So I'm gonna start sanding it and see how that goes, and then we'll go back and cut where we need to, if needed. Turn that off. Let's see here. Love that sound.
Yeah, I forgot to adjust that. Here, put some lube on that.
This is the Robert Sorby Sandmaster. Yeah, you would think that this wouldn't do that great of a job sanding because it's not powered, but it really does a fantastic job sanding on the lathe. And as long as it's spinning, it's sanding. More sanding, we'll just keep rotating it, loosen it, rotate it, sand it, and just keep doing that until you're happy with it. Got a little bit of a ridge right there, but I may be able to sand that out, so we'll give that a shot. Let's see. Trying to get back in front of the dust.
Yeah. See, this is why I don't sand or use
On the lathe?
the carving tools while I do live demos, because I can't. It just generates so much dust.
Alright, so I'm probably going to cut this one just a little bit more. So we got a couple of little ridges in here that I don't like.
I'm sure it's fine for just this
see
demo.
right there. There's a little bit. So this is the finesse stage. So now you have, oops,
Oh, yeah, sorry about that.
the
There's a
little spring fell out.
Yeah, there was a nut and a spring in there that we lost, that I lost somewhere.
All right, so I'm gonna loosen this up a bit. I'm gonna turn it around like so. So basically what I wanna do is I have a couple of ridges here and here and here and here.
Oh yeah.
So I wanna put those out. I wanna put those out where I can see them. So I'm really just gonna, when I start cutting this, I'm just gonna be focusing on getting rid of those things. And I have them mostly lined up towards the
Oh
center.
yeah, they're bigger than they look on camera, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I can understand you doing that.
Yeah, so.
I was like, why would you bother just for this demo?
I could sand it, but you know, it would really be snowing in here. So it's probably better just to cut it. Just cut it and be done with it. All right, let's get it. I want to introduce some new ones.
Yeah, just wouldn't even turn the lathe off. I would just go right to the sander.
Well, if you had a power sander, it probably wouldn't be that big of a deal to sand it off. But then again, it might, because this is ingrained too, so it would be difficult to cut it.
Mm.
And this is, so while this is off, I want to point out that if you look at this sphere, right? So this is ingrained on these two sides, okay? So, but really, in actuality, even all the way over to here, like this area right here is all the side grain you really have. The majority of this is a good percentage of ingrain. This is why you really don't want to do this with a spindle roughing gouge, and I thought that bore, that was important enough to mention it again. Back to sanding. I think I got rid of, yeah, there's still a little bit there, but pretty sure that'll go with sanding. Alright, so we're just about done with this thing. So is it making your picture snowy
Not
a
really.
little bit?
Getting dust on the back of the phone, like on the screen. But that'll wipe off pretty easily.
We're gonna rotate it around, keep sanding till we get it where we want it. Then we'll get some finer stuff and then we'll put a little wax on it and see what we got. the more you rotate it and sand it and rotate it and sand it, the smoother and truer this sphere is going to get. But at some point we're gonna call it done.
Yeah, I would have called it done.
We're not in
just for the demo. Yeah.
We're not in pursuit of perfection here. We're just, you know, going over the process, giving you guys a good idea of how this goes. Of course, like anything else at the lathe, you know, take a little bit of time to get proficient at it, and especially if you want to be a perfectionist about it. So when you do your first one, don't be too rough on yourself, and more importantly than that, don't give up, because this thing is going to look crazy until it doesn't. Hey, can I get some finer sandpaper out of that bag over there?
Sure.
This is 120.
This bag?
Yeah. It's the extra fancy sandpaper bag for travel purposes. How are we doing on time?
We're up to about 47 minutes now.
Oh.
So I figured, you know, we could do like an hour anyway, just like the virtual crafty festival video, and that would be fine.
It's like our own little crafty festival.
Yeah. Well, really, I just wanted to test my new phone to see how it performed. Seems to be doing okay. Thanks again for everyone that's watching.
So I'll tell you something very interesting. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not. Maybe I have to wait till I'm done standing.
We'll do a recap once
Do
you're
you have
done.
any paper towels?
I got shop towels.
Yeah, that'll work. Perfect.
Dusty shop towel.
Alright. Okay, so we're gonna call that puppy done. There's a sphere, right? And then, let's see. What do you want to put on it for a finish? Some wax?
Geez. Well, this is about the only stuff I have. Got some hamster sheen.
Actually, if you're gonna carve on it later, let's just leave it the way it is.
Sure.
So there you go. It's not. It's
Very
not
nice.
100% perfect.
Oh, now
but-
I got. No, I need
Oh,
some.
here.
Very cool, Daryl.
Yeah,
Thanks
so there you
for
go.
demoing that, and thanks for people watching.
So, sorry.
Yeah, what?
So one thing that about spheres, turning a sphere out of wood, right? That might not be immediately apparent, but this is a great example for, let's say you had somebody that wanted to make something for you, particularly like flat work out of wood, and you're trying to explain to them what the different types of cuts mean. So on this sphere, all the different cuts are here. So this is your flat sawn, right? Your cathedral grains. You can explain how that goes, right? This is your end grain, all right? This is your quarter sawn. So quarter sawn generally presents with some sort of patternation. You can see that right there, all right? So you can show people all the different ways that the grain can be presented for a particular type of wood.
You're assuming I know about that junk.
Oh.
I don't know how. I'm a hack, Daryl. I told you that already.
Well, I'm just north of a hack. How about that? Just barely north, but there we go. We're all done. And hopefully we can get Cammy to put some of his artistic carving flair on this thing.
Maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'll just do that. Yeah. Cool, man. Thanks a lot for the demo.
Yeah, no problem.
And thanks a lot for the sphere.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a scrap piece of magnolia that I had. Let's turn around here. We'll get out of the sun. I didn't. Are you a woodworker too, Chris? Thanks for commenting and watching, everybody. Yeah, I guess we'll wrap it up for today. But I want to thank Daryl for coming over. He'll be in at Man Tool. So if you're in and around the Columbia area, check out Daryl doing some demos at Man Tool this weekend. It's on Chris Drive
Yes.
in West Columbia. And well, best of luck to you, Chris, if you're just learning how to work with wood. I'm learning too. I'm still
I'm learning too.
Yeah.
Let's be fair.
But Daryl showed me some stuff today that was very useful and helpful to keep in mind for future projects. So I guess we'll wrap it up there. 51 minutes in. So thanks a lot again, everybody, for watching. We'll see you again in the next live.
All right. Take it easy.